some things on my mind about the current state of play in national politics, and I want to share those with you. These are dangerous times. Since January 20th, we have seen insurrectionists, including violent criminals, pardoned. We've seen Guantanamo Bay turned into a concentration camp, supposedly for violent illegal immigrants. We've seen an executive order from the president to nullify the 14th Amendment's birthright citizenship provision. Whether you agree or disagree with this provision, the president doesn't have the right to modify the Constitution with a stroke of the pen. It takes an act of Congress and approval of 2/3 of the state legislatures. We've seen a federal freeze on funding for programs here in Placer County that support education, public benefits, health care, child abuse prevention, and other critical services that keep us safe and healthy. We have seen an unelected billionaire with his band of hackers take over our government and create a level of chaos unseen in modern times. We have watched the President of the United States embrace Vladimir Putin, the most heinous of dictators, a war criminal, a murderer of his political opponents, and an invader of a sovereign nation. At the same time, the president is selling out our ally, Ukraine, lying about who started the war, and calling Ukraine's leader a dictator. Now that's taking projection to a whole new level. Yesterday, the president even distributed a picture of himself in a monarch's regalia. And as unfortunate as it is that we have become inured to brazen lies from the president, his words have had devastating consequences for democracies around the world. And we have a president who stated publicly that only he and the Attorney General can say what our laws mean. Wow, I thought that was the judiciary's responsibility. Our vice president is no better. Only a few days ago in Munich, he publicly embraced German right-wing extremists, the inheritors of the Nazi Party, and told them to forget about Nazi history. What, so it can repeat itself? Our new Secretary of Defense telegraphs that values don't matter. I guess that's what we should expect from someone repeatedly accused of sexual assault and public drunkenness. Today, an FBI director was confirmed who was paid by Russian propagandists to trash our premier law enforcement agency, the one he now leads. Right here in Placer County, FBI agents are being targeted for investigating January 6th insurrectionists. And there's more. A woman, commonly referred to as a Russian asset, has taken over our national security apparatus. And an incoherent anti-vaxxer with a worm-eaten brain has taken over the Department of Health and Human Services in the midst of tuberculosis and measles outbreaks and a reappearance of polio. I could go on all night with examples of corruption, incompetence, blatant violations of the law and our Constitution, and gross misconduct coming from this administration. But one example stands above all the others because it is an illegal operation, has put our national security at risk, exposed private data about our citizens to renegades with questionable motives, and threatened the lives and livelihoods of tens of millions of people around the world. I'm talking about DOGE, the so-called Department of Government Efficiency. The billionaire who bought control of our government is using DOGE, not to make government more efficient. The chaos that they have caused has brought government to its knees. It can barely function. Not to rid government of fraud, waste, and abuse. They could have done that with the 16 inspectors general that they fired. Not to save money, they just threw out $500 million worth of perfectly good COVID tests. And oh, by the way, he's paying himself billions of dollars a year in government contracts. Not to protect the privacy of our citizens. They have invaded government databases that house the most private information about all of us. Not to protect our security, we have no idea how the data they've been stealing will be used, nor the kinds of traps that they may have embedded in the computer system's code. And certainly not to keep us healthy and competitive. They are gutting critical R&D budgets, firing scientists, healthcare workers, and technical experts across the government, like nuclear security and bird flu experts. and decimating the very foundation of our democracy by undermining Congress's power to set the budget and appropriate government funding. In the words of one of our members, DOGE stands for Dangerous Oligarchs Grab Everything. DOGE's most important function seems to be taking retribution on the government departments that try to hold its leader accountable. The FAA for investigating SpaceX for safety violations that endangered their workers, the FDA for reviewing clinical trial applications for Neuralink, his brain implant company, USAID for investigating Starlink's flagrant violation of our stated foreign policy by denying Ukraine access to satellite images that could have aided them in defeating the Russian invaders. And DOGE took a preemptive strike at the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, so financial services companies, including the proposed payment service on X, would be free to rip off consumers. I know the idea has been floated with the best of intentions, but let me be clear, there is no place for DOGE in Placer County. If the County Board of Supervisors believes there is a need to investigate fraud, waste, and abuse, they would have our support to hire an expert in this area, maybe one of the 16 inspector generals that was fired. If the regional or local government agencies seek to improve efficiency, they would have our support in hiring a professional consultant and expert in operational efficiency. What is not acceptable is giving inexperienced individuals with political biases access to highly confidential information and the power to disrupt our everyday lives. Now, meanwhile, Congress, which has the constitutional responsibility for the purse and upholding the rule of law, has been silent about all of this. They've been compliant. They have approved every unqualified cabinet secretary, including one that may have committed treason and another one who lied under oath during his confirmation hearing. They are bending over on the issue of NATO. Not a single one of them, including our own representative, has had the backbone to speak out about the president's effort to rewrite the Constitution without legal authority. They are so intimidated by a mafia-style leader and blinded by their own ambition that they are abdicating their oath to the Constitution. Instead, the House passed the SAVE Act, which states that you must prove citizenship to vote, when there are already laws in place to prevent non-citizens from voting, and when there has never been a shred of evidence that non-citizens were voting, let alone voting in large numbers. But what the SAVE Act does do is potentially threaten the right to vote for millions of voters, including women who have changed their name when they were married, and will now have to prove who they are because their current name doesn't match their birth certificate. Of course, our representative voted for this bill to disenfranchise voters. And the budget proposal, oh my God, no assurances to protect Social Security, Medicare, or Medicaid, which, by the way, subsidizes the cost of nursing home for seniors, a cost their children will likely have to bear. No income tax exemption for tips or Social Security, which was promised in the campaign. And the cruelty of this budget proposal knows no bounds. They don't just want to take student lunches and health care away from low-income families. They want to raise taxes on single-parent families and tax student scholarships. All this slashing while proposing more than $4 trillion in tax breaks for the wealthy and raising the national debt by another $4 trillion. And despite repeated inquiries, our representative has refused to meet with his constituents, who are rightly concerned about the direction of our country, the actions of this government, and their deleterious impact on our community here in Placer County. These are serious times, people, and we need to take serious actions to protect our communities and our families. The good news is Democrats are organizing all across the country to resist the egregious acts of this administration. Here in Lincoln, we're taking a two-pronged approach: resistance and community outreach. There are many tools and organizations available to facilitate contact with our elected officials and organize rallies. It's obviously working because you guys are active, including our own program called Act Now. And if you want to sign up for Act Now and receive alerts for calls to action, look for the link in our newsletter. I want to thank all of you who responded to the last call and came out to make signs and demonstrate on Monday against Doge's hostile takeover of our government, and all of you who have been making phone calls. We had a great showing in our rallies in both Sacramento and Auburn, by the way. Really, really good showing. We also have a call to action flyer here tonight. I'm going to pass it around. It was on the front table, but this is important. It's asking for your support with postcards, donations, or phone calls for Judge Susan Crawford, candidate for the Wisconsin Supreme Court. This election is taking place on April 1st. Voting rights, women's bodily autonomy, and the right to collectively bargain are at stake in this election, and Elon Musk is pouring millions into the race. We don't have millions, but we have a brigade of postcard writers that can mobilize on a dime. So please, get involved and help out if you can. Our community outreach efforts will focus on those issues that unite us, not what divide us. I'm certain that folks who voted in this last election to lower our cost of living, build more affordable housing, and stem inflation are asking themselves why our administration is instead renaming the Gulf of Mexico. We all want more affordable housing, lower cost of living, and a safe and healthy environment to live and raise our families, and I'm confident that we can work together to achieve these goals. As part of our outreach effort, we are organizing teams to regularly attend City Council, School Board, and County Supervisor meetings to ensure that our community's interests are being served. Our local officials need to know that we are paying attention and that we will challenge them when necessary. Anyone interested to sign up for this program, please see Terry Burkhart after the meeting, or you can email us at lincolndems@gmail.com. If you want to learn more about our plans, I invite you to attend a members-only session on Wednesday, March 12th, for a debrief on the 2024 election results, both here in Lincoln and in Placer County, and a review of the club's strategy for 2025 and 2026. We will meet from 7 to 8:30 p.m. here in Presentation Hall. I do hope you will join us. We have a lot of work to do to ensure that America remains a democracy today and for future generations. I thank you for coming tonight, and I'm going to turn the mic over to Ken Ball to introduce our program. Thank you very much.
We're very fortunate to have Ruth. She's got energy. She's got focus. It's great to have her. We're very lucky. So before I introduce Shanti, no, first thing I want to do, can I take a picture of everybody?
Sure, why not?
I'm going to do a piano. I was just in Europe, so I did lots of piano.